What is going on, everybody? Fascinating graveyard on this warm summer evening here at the Glendale Cemetery in Des Moines, Iowa. Today, we're going to talk about a photo that I've seen online that I've never seen in my life. I seen this photo 3 months ago and I got very curious as to the story behind it. Has anybody ever seen this photo before? If the answer is no, let's get a little bit closer. Have you seen this photo before? Let's get even more of a close-up. Have you seen this photo? So what you're looking at right now is a photo of a lineman that played for Oklahoma at the time. His name was Wilbanks Smith, and he is straight punching the opposing quarterback of the opposite team, the Drake Bulldogs, one quarterback, Johnny Bright, right in the face. So let's delve in deeper into this story. So we're going to go back to 1951. Now, at the time, Oklahoma, then known as Oklahoma A&M, now they're Oklahoma State University, the Cowboys, they're playing at home, and their opponent is the Drake Bulldogs. The Bulldogs, they're on a 5-game win streak. I want to say they're at the top of their conference, which was the Missouri Valley Conference, and they have a rising star, quarterback slash halfback. He played both positions, named Johnny Bright. Now, Johnny Bright wasn't the first black collegiate football player, of course not. But he was the first one that received nationwide media attention because he was a very, very good football player. And he's the reason why Drake was sitting on top of the Missouri Valley Conference. So on October 20th, 1951, Drake comes to Oklahoma to play the Cowboys. And as they're playing, before the game started, there was several threats coming from the Oklahoma side saying that basically Johnny wasn't going to finish the game. Like they were going to take him out. And back in those days, they didn't have full-face helmets. There was still that area of the face where you can, punch somebody, not like now. So as Johnny gets the ball from the hiker, he goes back to throw the ball. Now, as he releases the ball in these series of pictures, Wilbanks Smith, straight, just cold cocks him right in the jaw. Now, Johnny fell down, but he got right back up, and a couple plays later, he actually ended up throwing a 61-yard touchdown pass. So as he goes into the sidelines, his jaw starts hurting, and he ended up not coming back into the game. So the final score of the game, because Johnny didn't come back in, because like I said, he was one of the best collegiate football players in the nation, and clearly number one on the Bulldogs team, Drake lost to Oklahoma 27-14. They would have won that game if he didn't get taken out of the game. Now, here's where we talk about race. Now, of course, back in the 50s, especially in the, in the South, there's a lot of racism, real racism, and there really was. And there was witnesses that were overhearing the Oklahoma football players before the game saying, quote, "We're going to get that, N-word, whatever you want to call it." And, after the game, it basically started a series of talks about racism and, Drake's, best player being, in effect, taken out of the game. And of course, Drake not going to the bowl or not reaching the level of success that season that they were supposed to because they don't have their best football player on the team. Now, Wilbank Smith was interviewed about the punch, and he, they were accusing him of being a racist, and he basically says, no, that wasn't about Johnny being black. That was just a football move. Back in those days, football was a lot different of a game as it was now. But there's people on the other side that said, no, you're full of crap. That was nothing more than a vicious punch by a low-down, dirty racist against a man based solely on the color of his skin. Now, I got to give props to Johnny Bright because, it got a lot of attention in the media. But, and listen, Johnny could have fanned the flames. He could have been like, he hit because I was black. He didn't. He just said, you know what, whatever. He hit me. We all know what it is. I moved on. And after that season, Johnny would go on to get drafted in the Canadian Football League. And he never played a game in the United States. I don't know why. I don't know, maybe if he wasn't as good or whatever. I don't know. But he ended up playing 12 seasons in the Canadian Football League. And I forgot what year he died. It was somewhat recently, but about 3 years before his death, he basically said the same thing. He said, we all know what it is. And, I don't, and they said, what do you think about Wilbank Smith, the guy that punched you, that broke your jaw? He's like, I don't think nothing of him. He didn't say, man, let me tell you, he didn't say one bad thing about that guy. And I believe that Wilbank Smith punched him in his face just because he was black. He was just a racist. That's all there was to it. And Wilbank Smith, who had settled down in Texas, he just recently died, maybe about 2 or 3 years ago at the age of 89. And he basically said, that maybe the punch was a good thing because it changed collegiate sports forever, where it integrated more black players into the game. He never admitted that it was a racist move. He just said it was a football move and I wanted to take their best player out of the game, and that's what I did. I don't know. That's a dirty, dirty play. It was a way different time back then, So this is the grave of Don Ul Tang, and basically he's the guy that took that picture. Don Ul Tang was a photographer, pretty well known, and he was a pioneer in aerial photography. And that picture started a nationwide conversation on race relations in sports, and it won him a Pulitzer Prize. Now, in protest, Drake, I believe they didn't play in the Missouri Valley Conference the following year or so. Don't quote me, because I read this story a while back. But I know it wasn't until like 20 years later that they even played, I think, football again in that conference. Don't quote me. I'll put it up in subtitles if I got it wrong. But yeah, there's a 2008. Yeah, he was born in Iowa City, maybe, and made his life and his career in Iowa here. So a little bit of history. This is kind of a history channel, a little bit. I don't delve too much into history, but I do like history, and I do like talking about certain stories. So rest in peace to Don Ul Tang, and rest in peace to Johnny Bright and Wilbank Smith, even though what he did was a sucker move, in my personal opinion, because only a sucker throws a sucker punch. It is what it is. And big props to Johnny Bright, because listen, Johnny could have made this another story, he could have brought it, but no, he just said, you know what, it is what it is. And he grew up in the old school. So basically Johnny said, if you can't say If you can't say anything nice about somebody, don't say anything about them at all, excuse me. But I'm sure behind closed doors he said whatever it is that he said. Anyways, guys, I gotta get out of here. Hope you learned something. Catch up with you on the next video. Peace out.